What up, what up, what up? It's your favorite shit talking squirrel, back for the YouTube video. So we got some interesting TPO hearings today in Simpson's court. Figured we'd take a look at it. Should be fun. Simpson's always a good time. So what do you say we all draw near, shall we? Let's get this.
Court calls the case, People versus Ronald Reed.
Nimish Ganatra for the people.
And Assistant Public Defender Emily New on behalf of Ronald Reed, who is in custody. Mr. Reed, can you please state your name?
Ronald Reed.
Sure. What are we doing?
And Your Honor, we are trying to reach a resolution in this case. I have spoken with Mr. Ganatra. He does need some additional documentation from me, so we're asking for to adjourn this PCC in the hopes of resolving this case at the next one.
2-3 weeks.
2 weeks, please.
Probable cause conference will be adjourned. Without objection, August 3rd, 2023, 9 a.m. Bond continued.
And Your Honor, may I please address bond in this case?
Go for it.
So Your Honor, what we're asking for is a 1,010% bond. Mr. Reed has been in custody since June 22nd, so about a month. The guidelines I ran put him at 0 to 6 months. So realistically, this is not a case where he is facing additional jail time. Most likely, whatever the resolution, probation is the most likely outcome in the future. I think the most important point I want to bring up to the court, which is new information, from what I imagine you heard last time, is that Mr. Reed's family has fully moved out of the apartment where this incident is alleged to have taken place. This is a neighbor dispute type case, not domestic. I confirmed with his partner that they moved out on July 15th. They turned the keys in. I have that new address for the court. I can provide it in the chat. It is in Inkster. So there is no risk that he would have any accidental encounter or need to go near that area where the no-go zone is. And so I think a GPS tether as an extra precaution might be the most appropriate thing in this case. That way it ensures court appearances. He would have no reason to go anywhere near the no-go area since he has moved. He's a father of 3. He's the primary breadwinner. It's a 1-year-old, 5-year-old, and 11-year-old. He works at Amazon. He's worked there for 3 years. And as of today, he does still have his job there.
Response.
Your Honor, I have a slightly different scoring on the guidelines. I have 0 to 9. And I understand counsel's argument about likely sentence, but I would share with the court a few other bits of information about the defendant. There's a pending Ypsi Township case, malicious destruction of property, 200 to 1,000. I don't know if counsel was aware of that. It wasn't brought up during her bond argument. That's pending. There was a bench warrant at the time that I think the case was last in court. I would also say the state of this case is that the defendant was living in the apartment building where the victims were living and was constantly going to their place, sometimes opening up the door without permission, unlocked door without permission, complaining about the noise.
I'm not going to have the defendant interrupting the motion, and I'll just take care of it right now. I know what's going to be said on it, and motion for bond reduction is denied. Bond will continue. You're not going to have him interrupting while you're trying to make an argument. Made a very cogent argument, Ms. New, but he needs to keep his mouth shut. Thank you. Court calls the case. People versus Simeon Davis.
Good morning, Your Honor. Amy Reiser appearing on behalf of the people.
Michael Gaddy, Assistant Public Defender on behalf of Mr. Davis, Your Honor, who is present from the jail. State your name, Mr. Davis.
Simeon Davis, Your Honor.
Doing on all 5 matters for court.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Reiser and I have had some discussions about this matter. I don't know if we'll be able to resolve it. It was a matter that she's only recently kind of taken over. If we could maybe adjourn this, I know it's unusual, but maybe adjourn it a week so that her and I can discuss it, and I could be heard.
I'm not going a week. I can go 2.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. And if I could be heard on bond.
You can go ahead on bond. I'm adjourning these to August 3rd, 2023. Yes to bond.
Your Honor, Mr. Davis has been in the jail for some time now. This kind of started with one arrest, and then these other charges came while he was in custody. He had been screened. He has been found competent. He is a resident of the area. He could reside. Last time I did confirm that he could reside with his son in Taylor. If released, he could be placed on a GPS tether to ensure, or house arrest even, to ensure that he not violate any of the parameters of the court, of any conditional bond orders to protect the community, and to ensure that he is where the court wants him to be when the court wants him to be there. I don't believe he's a flight risk to other states or jurisdictions. I believe he's a long-term resident of Washtenaw and kind of southern Wayne County. So I'd ask the court to consider releasing him under those parameters. When I score his guidelines on the highest grade charge, I get 0-11 on the guidelines for that. I'm aware that there are several other charges, but they are not as serious grade-wise anyways.
Response.
We would ask that the bond remains set where it is. This case, the defendant does have a relatively lengthy criminal history out of Hammond, Indiana in 2018 for trespass, resisting in 2020, trespass and mischief in 2020. In Michigan, attempt UNP of 2009, disturbing the peace in 2010, a DWLS in 2010, retail fraud 2019. He had a CSC out of Detroit that was dismissed in 2021. I don't know the facts of that case, but I certainly will try to find out. And he had a trespass in 2021. And this case involved the defendant being taken to psych ER and essentially just raining like hell on the employees there, like assaulting a female nurse, grabbing the genitals of a male nurse and telling him, I guess I'm gay now, throwing semen on one of the nurses, exposing himself while he was there. And then at some point he must have been released, because then on November, those offenses occurred October 14th, October 16th of 2022. And then on November 7th, 2022, there was an employee working at building a hotel off of State Street. And on surveillance, the defendant is seen coming up to the building, pretending he's sweeping at like 2 a.m, then finding a brick, breaking into the employee's van and just stealing everything from it, including a knife, a work knife, coming back and slashing the tire. And again, then when he's taken into custody by police, he's acting as if, he's kind of passing out in the back of the car. So they have to take him to the ER where he's evaluated. He again exposes himself in the back of the vehicle to the police and at the hospital, and resists arrest. So I think he is a danger to the community. And I don't even know what the bond is set at in these cases, but we would ask that it remains set where it is.
Bond reductions denied. Bond will continue.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Another one.
Court does call the case of the people versus Robin Slater.
Good morning, Your Honor. Allie Zend on behalf of the people, seeking permission to practice pursuant to Michigan Court Rule 8.120 under the supervision of Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Laura Willenbring.
Permission to practice is granted. Good morning.
Zachary Ward on behalf of Mr. Slater. Mr. Slater, could you please state your full name?
Need to unmute Mr. Slater or have somebody. There you go.
Ronald Slater.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What are we doing?
Your Honor, at this time, we'd request a preliminary examination, and I'd like to address bond.
Preliminary examination he's in. Will be set for August 1st, 2023, 9 a.m. in person before Judge Barr. As to bond.
Your Honor, Mr. Slater is presently being held on a $25,000 cash or surety bond. It's the only thing holding him. Mr. Slater has substantial ties to the community. He will be living with his mother in Belleville. She has COPD. He assists with helping her get treatment. He's employed as a painter and has been doing that for years. He's lived here in the area all his life. He also has a couple medical appointments coming up that will also time the community. We're requesting the court consider either a personal bond, home confinement, or a reduction of the $25,000 bond.
Response.
Your Honor, at this time, we would object to that. We would ask he remain in custody. Due to the nature of this case, the victim is extremely fearful of him. And when officers arrived, she was very reluctant to even state any of the details of what happened, but eventually agreed to talk with officers. When they were talking to her, they noticed she had large bruises on her arms, a cigarette burn with the ash still under her eye, and other bruises and marks throughout her body. She also stated that a week ago he had kicked in her front door, and she was so fearful she wouldn't provide any more information. And we would ask at this time that the bond remain in place. And if he is released, we would also ask that a GPS tether be added as a condition of bond.
Yeah, the GPS tether looks like it's in place.
Your Honor, if I may briefly respond to the prosecution, my office did receive a letter purporting to be from the alleged victim in this case, substantially recanting any statements made and said no felonious assault occurred. Obviously, that's just a letter. I have provided that to the prosecution, but Mr. Slater will abide by any no contact order and any other requirements the court deems necessary.
Allegation is that he was burnt with a lit cigarette.
Yes, and the letter describes that being incidental, her stating she having no burns or anything like that, and that she was upset when the police arrived, so that's why she indicated it was done purposefully, but that was not the truth.
Coming up on preliminary examination on the first, given what I've heard, motion for bond reductions denied. Bond will continue. Then Judge Bauer can take another look at it after hearing testimony. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Court calls.
Another one. Another one.
Court calls the case, People versus Pamela Carter.
Nimish Ganatra for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Calvin Hawthorne, appearing with and on behalf of Pamela Carter. Mr. Carter, will you please state your name?
Carter.
Okay, what are we doing?
Your Honor, we have been in discussions with the people to reach a global resolution. However, we are still awaiting new charges to be authorized, so we are requesting a 2-week adjournment.
2 weeks? 2 or 3? His other case, the other case before me that I think is all part of this, I can't recall what date I gave from my other docket, but
It was the second, Your Honor.
the 7th? That's
So
what I
second.
thought. Second.
Yes.
Okay, I could set it for the 3rd if you think you'll wrap it up, or I could set this for the 10th. Either way, what do you want me to do?
Let's go with the 10th, Mr. Ganatra. Is that
All right.
Your Honor, I do have
Hang
one
on a second.
request.
Hang on 1 second.
One's on the second, one's on final settlement on the 11th.
Okay. He also has, if you're looking for a global resolution, he's got one before me on the 2nd. He also has another that's set for final settlement conference before me on the 11th. So, all right. And we'll try to figure out a date. Yes, Mr. Ganatra, you were saying something, sir.
Your Honor, I wanted to bring to the court's attention, you're aware of the child abuse case and the domestic violence case, because both of those matters are being prosecuted by my colleague, Caitlin Kirby, in your court.
Yes.
Ms. Kirby informed me yesterday afternoon that the defendant is still having phone calls with the victim on the DV case, telling her not to come to court and appear. At this point, I'm asking for this court to revoke his phone call privileges in the jail on all the cases.
Any response, Mr. Hawthorne?
Your Honor, I would ask that you admonish Mr. Carter to refrain from making any calls to the victim and allow him to make calls to our office for legal purposes.
All right. Here's what I'm going to do. Hey, with regard to the probable cause conference, I'm going to set this one right in between that. I'm going to adjourn this out to August 10th, 2023 at 9 a.m. With reference, so his bond on this will continue with reference to his phone privileges. You got it. I'll certainly have a hearing on it if Mr. Hawthorne, you think it's required, but in the interim, because of the nature of the other two cases that I'm familiar with, I am going to revoke the defendant's phone privileges. If you wish to request a hearing on that, you may, but at this point, his phone privileges are hereby revoked. Right. Thank you.
Listen.
Well, there you have it. Some interesting bond hearings. I thought some of them were kind of cool anyways. So that'll do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next video, okay? Thanks. Bye.